Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome
That
to
kitty cat always
another.
gets me in a good mood, no
Rare,
matter what.
rare. I know. I think got the cat. Oh, that wasn't the cat. Oh, I pressed the wrong one. Good evening. Hi, Jen. Good evening.
Hey, good
Guess
evening.
where are we going tonight? We are
Oh my
going.
God. Yeah, we're talking about earthquake. We're basically going deep into Turkey and also the animals that got caught in the earthquake. So, first up, Sandy and everybody, an article from Scientific American just came out why the earthquake in Turkey was so damaging and deadly. It was a magnitude 7.8 earthquake that struck Turkey, as we know. It's a rare occurrence and it underscores the importance of setting and enforcing building codes.
Yeah,
and
everywhere.
then, yeah, and then we are going over to the conversation and this very ancient city. You guys might have remembered it from your Roman history or, early English history, even. Eleanor of Aquitaine went there, Antioch. Turkey's historic city of Antakya, known as in Roman and medieval times as Antioch, has been flattened by powerful
Yeah.
earthquakes in the past and rebuilt itself. So this is about the resiliency of Antioch, or Antakya as it's known today. And then we're going over, unusually, to the Guam Daily Post. I do not think we have ever read anything from the Guam Daily Post, Sandy.
No, I got this from Carolyn's newsletter.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I liked it, so I picked it. I
Oh,
thought if she
great.
picked it, it has to be okay. Carolyn
Absolutely.
Baker.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
Daily
yeah.
News. Get it every day.
Earthquake survivors in Turkey face tragic times with economic collapse. So, pretty tough article there. And then we're going over to Georgia. Today, we're not talking about the state of Georgia, but
No.
the country of Georgia. The fight to save the Turkish animals caught in the earthquakes. This
Yeah.
is a very heartrending article, and we're going to dive deep into the animals a little bit more in Network for Animals. Animal catastrophe. 10 days on, countless dogs and cats are homeless and injured and in freezing weather in quake ravaged Turkey. So that's especially sad one.
Yeah.
And then I guess we're going to go a little bit into Brian Davies and who he was, animal activist, just passed away in
Yeah, really
December.
sad.
Yeah,
What a guy he was.
yeah.
But
So,
all right, well, let me say hi to everyone. Poppy and BB and Karen Reese. Thank you for moderating, Kim. Dead End Joker, Jim McHenry. I hear you're going on a trip to DC to stand up, well, for our, we don't
go,
like
Jim,
wars.
go.
Yeah. And Devon, hi, Devon. Hope you're doing well. It's really great to see everybody. Melanie and Trulia. You're funny, Trulia. And Tanya's there. Tanya Qualley, she's here.
Yeah,
Shout out
Tanya.
to Kim and Sandy and Jennifer. Good, it's great. Lone Wanderer. All right, Scott Andrews. We're gonna start the show. All right, we'll
All
start the
right.
show. We are definitely starting the show with this Scientific American. Was it me or you? I forgot which way we were
It's
going.
you.
All
This
right,
is you.
it's me, guys. This is me. This article, we then will talk about, well, why was the earthquake so damaging? So we're going to start with that. And since we haven't covered this, and here we go. That major earthquake, the major earthquake struck it on Monday. Now, this was from what date was this? This is February 6th, but it's still a good article, even though it's how many days later. A major earthquake struck and killing thousands. And in neighboring Syria also. Rescue workers have been searching the rubble of the buildings for the survivors. And like we said, with the animals, the magnitude 7.8 struck close to Nurdagi, not far from the city of Gaziantep at 4:17 a.m. local time. Can you imagine? You're sleeping
Mm-mm-mm.
and that kind of thing just, oh my gosh. It's just been so emotional with all the things that have been happening around the world right now. The quake involved a fault rupture that was relatively shallow, about 18 kilometers, 11 miles below the Earth's surface, making surface movements more intense. Now, you would think that sounds like far away. 11 miles down, that's far away, but not when you're, no, it's not. And so, according to the New York Times, this earthquake caused the collapse of nearly 3,000 buildings in Turkey, killed more than, well, it says 3,000, but now, of course, the update is that it's like 40,000 people. It's catastrophic.
40, I heard 41 at one point in one of these articles.
Okay. It's just horribly catastrophic, and we don't even know the toll on animals. We really don't even have a total toll on animals. But those killed and injured, of course, is expected to rise because the region's high population density. They definitely had 15-minute walkable cities. Partially, particularly among the number of Syrian refugees who often live in makeshift or otherwise less robust structures. To learn about this notoriously seismically active region and why this earthquake was so damaging, Scientific American spoke with seismologist Ross Stein. He's the CEO of the catastrophic modeling company Temblor. That's a heck of a job, huh? Catastrophic modeling. Wow, he's going to be busy. He's probably pretty busy. Turkey is squeezed by a giant tectonic vise. The Arabian subcontinent is shoving northward, and it's pushing Turkey north against basically a fixed boundary of northern Europe. And so what happens is Turkey is squeezed onward to the west, where it spills into the Mediterranean. Ultimately, it gets shoved underneath Crete in a subduction zone like we see off Japan. Pretty wild. So how common are these in the size and intensity? They are rare. That's the short answer. They're probably on the order of a once-a-century kind of event. We did have a magnitude 7.8 in 39. That was the beginning of the most spectacular falling domino sequence of earthquakes the world has ever known. That ruptured the North Anatolian Fault over 1,000 kilometers, almost from one end to the other, in a series of 12 very large earthquakes over 60 years. It's a slow-mo car crash where one earthquake, that's a visual, huh?
Wow.
Where one earthquake, oh my God, is triggering the next and the next and the next. Although Although we know that the San Andreas and other faults of this kind are capable of something like that, this is the clearest, simplest example we've known. So what makes them so rare? Well, I'm going to tell you. It's in the kind of weird math of earthquakes. Every time you bounce up one magnitude unit, you get 1/10 of the occurrence rate. So as you go to larger and larger sizes, they become less and less frequent. There are arguments about that, though. Some argue that you could identify the maximum size of an earthquake that characterizes a fault. But I don't think the data shows that. In 100 years, if we have 20 magnitude 7s, we should have 2 magnitude 8s. Roughly speaking, that's what we see. So, and they can still get larger? Nobody knows. The hubris of the seismic community is to argue that we can divine how large an earthquake can be or a given fault. On the East Anatolian Fault, where the recent earthquake occurred, lots of researchers had kind of pegged the maximum magnitude in the neighborhood of 7.4. So this earthquake ruptured over a fairly long stretch, 400 kilometers, and it was followed by that magnitude 7.5, which we all heard about. Can you talk about these and any other interesting aspects of the quake? Okay, that's the question and answer, so you know that. So one of the things that we do, that Temblor does, and a lot of scientists do, is try to calculate how one earthquake changes the conditions for failure around it. We call this the Coulomb stress triggering. And we made a calculation last night. He did, Jennifer. He made a calculation. He said that they sent out to their clients where we showed that this earthquake should light up parts of the East Anatolian Fault farther to the north and to the south. And we had a magnitude 7.5 early this morning in basically the blowtorch zone. So it was kind of similar to what we saw in the falling domino sequence along the Anatolian Fault, which means this may not be over. Wow. Earthquakes are in a kind of chain reaction. They converse by the transfer of stress. One earthquake might drop the stress on the section that ruptured, but it transfers it to other sections. Aftershocks they tell us the story. Aftershocks don't just occur where the rupture took place, they occur around it over fairly large distances. So why was this earthquake particularly damaging? Well, the number one factor is building quality. It just trumps everything. Building quality is controlled by a building code and the enforcement of that code. Give me a second. Turkey went through that terrible 1999 Izmit earthquake, which killed more than 15,000 people. So Turkey had modern building codes within a few years of that earthquake. So then you say, well, given that, why did the buildings fail? Are these buildings older than 20 years ago, or were they buildings built in a manner that was not properly reinforced? After the Izmit earthquake in 1999, I was there, he says. We were inspecting a factory. You build a strong building with reinforced concrete, which is the standard building material the world over. What you do is you have rebar. You have those steel rods that are inside the columns and the beams, and you concentrate the strength and the density at any of those corners, any junctions. That's because where the earthquake stress, it's going to be concentrated. So we were inside this failed manufacturing plant, and I could see there was a big crack along one of the joints, big enough that I could get my hand in to see how many reinforcing rods were in there. Holy shit. I put my hand in and I pulled out a hunk of styrofoam.
Unbelievable.
Oh, I have to have something for that. Okay, there. Stupid. Styrofoam. The world would be a safer place if concrete was translucent. This is the problem. It's too easy to cheat. I don't know if the buildings that fell in the recent quake are older buildings or poorer buildings, so I'm not accusing anybody of anything. But this is a problem worldwide, not just in Turkey. And you know, Jennifer, it brings into mind the building that collapsed in, what was it, in Miami? In Florida a couple of years ago?
Yeah. The one by the beach there, right? That apartment building?
And so, I'm going to have to follow up and see exactly what they found was the reason why the hell that thing fell. So this was what other things would you like people to be aware of with the risk of earthquakes? Well, I think it's a reminder. I think what's happened over the past 5 years is that people willed themselves to believe that earthquakes don't occur anymore. And now it's just floods and wildfires, which it is that. So that's definitely the view in California. It's kind of a willful blindness.
That's a good word for it.
It's a very good. It's understandable because it's been a long time in California since a major earthquake. Oh my God. So and it's a lot of more people in California. So this is a reminder of what can happen in a very San Andreas-like setting, that big earthquakes do happen. This is our future. And the difference between a relatively harmless earthquake and a disaster is how well we build our buildings and how well we prepare. That's why being a prepper's good, even in that way. If people want to do one thing and it costs $1 to make themselves safer in earthquake country, put an international orange whistle on your keychain. And the reason is this: if you're trapped in a building, no one is ever going to try to dig you out unless they know you are alive.
Wow.
You can't tell. You can't yell for very long before you use up all your moisture, nor can you be heard very far. with this whistle, you can be really loud for a really long time. Holy shit, I never thought. So is they're
Never
saying,
thought of that.
okay, wear a whistle around you at what, at all times? I mean,
I
at
have
all
no
times.
idea.
I don't know, but that's what he says, and he's the risk guy. So have if you live in one of those, I would say if you live in a fault area, where there's going to be earthquakes, maybe that's not such a bad idea. Maybe it's
Yeah,
not.
I
So
think so. I've never heard of that.
how's our chat doing? Hi, Foggy Ozark. And let's see. Oh, saltwater. It was saltwater intrusion. That's what it was in
In
Miami.
Miami, yeah, it's
Yeah,
not like such a big mystery. Well, that why
I
that apartment fell over. I mean, basically, since Miami's going underwater, and it's all becoming destabilized. So that thing was right next to the ocean in Miami. I don't think
sweetheart.
it was quick.
Listen, Tom
Yeah.
Trulia. She says, "Good plan. Would a metal whistle work? Does it have to be plastic?" Sweetheart, I would imagine any whistle would work. I can't even whistle. Can you imagine if I had to save my life whistling?
Uh-uh.
No, I'd be dead. I would be dead. And this is not funny. And of course, Buffalo had the earthquake right after that one, and my daughter felt it, and she said she thought someone crashed into her house. That's how it felt in Buffalo, and that was just what a few weeks ago. So
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, so let's move on to the conversation, and I'm so glad
Mhm.
everybody's here. Wait a minute, I have to make one
Yeah.
more. Scott, oh my gosh, Sandy, Scott's visiting me, and we're watching together. This is fantastic. I can't believe it. I'm so happy. This has been a long time coming. I got to give you an applause. Hi, Scott. Hi, Poppy. They're together at Poppy's house in
Oh,
Missouri.
that's great.
Missouri.
That's fabulous.
I know. This is great. See, we are such a family all over the place. All right, Jen.
Yes, little
It is
family.
your turn. Take
All
it
right.
away.
So we're going over to Antakya or Antioch, and just to explain, because I was curious, I looked Antioch up in Wikipedia just prior to this, and it is located. Turkey goes along, and you have to do it opposite, I guess, if I'm gonna do it this way, right? So Turkey goes along, and then it cuts right down, and that's Syria. You know how it almost turns a 90 degree in Antioch or Antakya is right at that juncture. So it's in a earthquake prone area. So Turkey's historic city of Antakya, known in Roman and medieval times as Antioch, has been flattened by powerful earthquakes in the past and rebuilt itself. Tens of thousands have died and millions have become homeless in southern Turkey and northern Syria after a massive 7.8 earthquake that struck February 6, 2023. But the ancient Turkish city of Antakya, known in Roman and medieval times as Antioch, has been here before. The late 4th century Roman world, 2 days after a powerful earthquake shook the border of Turkey and Syria, the Christian preacher John Chrysostom delivered a sermon to the frightened congregation in his shaken city of Antioch, much as survivors today struggle to understand the destruction. Quote, "Your nights are sleepless," he acknowledged, "and possessions were torn asunder more easily than a
Wow.
spider's web. For a short time you became angels instead of humans." As a history of Christianity in the late Roman world, my research on the Christianization of Antioch took me to an area in 2006, 2008, 2010, and my heart has been breaking to see the region where people welcomed me so generously shattered anew. It helps, though, to know that Antakia's rich history and the resilience and courage of its people who have rebuilt the city before. The layers of time. The city has known numerous rulers in its long history and notable religious diversity. Jewish, Christian, Muslim communities have called Antioch
Everybody.
home since late antiquity to today. In the New Testament, Antioch is where Jesus' followers were first called Christians, and the apostles Peter and Paul met in the city. Roman emperors often spent the winters in temperate metropolis. The 4th century Greek teacher Libanius declared in his oration on Antioch that this city on the Orontes River was so beautiful that even the gods preferred to dwell there. The ancient Greek and Roman city came under Muslim control in 637, returned to Greek Christian control in the 10th century, Muslim control briefly in the 11th century, and then Western Christian control in 1098 during the First Crusade. The Crusaders established the Principality of Antioch, which lasted until the 13th century arrival of the Mongols, when, after some struggles, the city ultimately found itself ruled by the Muslim Mamluks based in Egypt.
Mamelukes.
Mamluks.
Mamluks.
Mamluk. It became part of the Ottoman Empire in the 16th century, and after World War I, France oversaw the region as part of Syria until it was annexed by Turkey in 1939. It has received countless refugees since Syria's civil war started in 2011. During my visits, the textured layers of the city's long history were visible everywhere. The main Kurtulus Street followed the old Roman road, and the Habibi Nekar Mosque, destroyed in the recent earthquake, commemorated the city's early Muslim history on the site that was previously a
Wow.
church.
Wow.
The Orontes River still flowed through the city, and modern homes nestled, as Roman homes once did, against the mountain, where early Christian ascetics withdrew to pray. Remnants of the Roman aqueduct and medieval stone walls snaked through the city up to the mountainside. The trembling earth. Earthquakes have punctured the city's past as well as its present, including at least two that utterly devastated the Roman city the way that we witnessed in February 2023.
Mm.
In his Roman history from the 3rd century, the early historian Cassius Dio described the catastrophic devastation and loss of life from the severe earthquake that ravaged the city in 115. That's year 115, as the whole
115.
earth,
My
yeah,
God. 115.
it was the year 115. The whole year was upheaved and buildings leapt into the air. The early Christian historian John Malalas survived another devastating earthquake in the city in 526, and he
Damn.
described it in his chronicle, the terrible fire that compounded the unfathomable destruction after the surface of the earth boiled up and everything fell to the ground.
Wow.
Today, as well, countless buildings have been flattened, like the historic Habibi Nekar Mosque, which had already been rebuilt after another earthquake destroyed it in 1853.
Huh.
The medieval crusaders built a towering stone entrance to the mountain cave church associated with the Apostle Peter, and we wait to learn if it had been damaged. Quote, I can't tell you how much of it was bad. My friend Julia replied to my first panicked message on February 6th. Much of her family in Antakya somehow survived, but her uncle and niece, our friend Ekran, and his young family, and tens of thousands of others in the region were
Oh,
not
wow.
so fortunate. Pray for us, she wrote. Hope for the future. The city's history, though, is one of transition and rebirth, and I believe there is hope amid the wreckage. Malalas wrote in 526, pregnant women gave birth under the earth and came out with their infants unharmed,
Holy crap.
echoing the survival of a baby girl who was born in Antakya February 6, 2023, under the collapsed rubble of her home, and has been named Aya, an Arabic word that loosely translates as a sign from God. The city's Hatay Archaeology Museum houses a breathtaking collection of Roman floor mosaics from its superb Daphne, famous since Roman times for its natural springs, and the Ministry of Culture has personnel on site to protect it. As neighbors dig through toppled buildings for survivor, the world rushes to bring aid. My Knoxville, Tennessee friend Yassin Taru, a Syrian refugee himself, has returned to the region to provide meals for survivors as part of global relief efforts. Aid workers and volunteers are rushing in to provide medical
Good.
attention, food, shelter, and clean water to the region, though it remains a struggle to reach those isolated in northern Syria.
Oh my
The
God.
scope of the catastrophe is heartbreaking, but these echoes from the Roman past can, I believe, provide a hopeful reminder of the
Okay.
resilience of the city's people who have rebuilt from devastating earthquakes before. Perhaps, with the world's support, they can do it again.
I have to put this up. Nadia, if an earthquake hit a neoliberal state like the USA, everything would just stay rubble.
Probably.
Oh, you guys, it's everything is so sad that if you don't laugh, sometimes you're just gonna cry. So, I'm glad you all have a good sense of humor. That's for sure. Yep, yep,
Mm,
yep.
mm.
Well, that was good. See, now that was some history, and I see that Sam's with us. He's down. What is he right now? He's inland, about 20 miles from the Yucatan coast, enjoying. Are you
Mm.
enjoying a margarita? Maybe he's enjoying a margarita. You know what? Where is everybody tonight? I think the problem was I did not advertise on Twitter. I thought Twitter I thought I got no traction, but maybe we're not getting the Twitter folks tonight. But anyway, thank you, Nadia, for. Oh, Don, hi Don, you're here. Yes, it's doom time. Let me feel myself die. Oh, stop yourself. Donald. All right. Donald lives in where he earthquake area up there in California.
Oh,
So
yeah.
earthquake survivors. Now this is another tough one. This is well the other ones were history. This is tough. Earthquake survivors in Turkey face tragic times with economic collapse. And the thing is that other article was like, oh, they're going to be rebuilt and everything is going to be okay. And well, there you go. Um, Donald. I live in Sacramento. If the San Fran sinks, Sacramento becomes a bay. Oh, jeez. All right. Well, let's hope not. So tragedy has long haunted the broad swath of land where earthquakes just claimed thousands of lives, left many thousands of people injured, and plunged already impoverished millions into yet deeper financial despair. For centuries, an angry earth has shaken communities in the sun-baked mountains and valleys that sprawl across southeastern Turkey. But the earth's latest deadly roar comes at a especially vulnerable moment for Turkey and Syria, where an unusually bitter cold hourly seals the rubber and in the earthquake's countless bodies. The tragedy is not a distant one for me. As a journalist, I have traveled along Turkey's southeastern border and visited Syrian refugees and the places where they were living. But the deeper significance is that my wife and I, as Peace Corps volunteers, run a small, meagerly supported orphanage for Turkish boys in a slum on the far edge of Istanbul more than 5 decades ago. Wow. Many of the boys at 6 years old and up were sole survivors of an earthquake in eastern Turkey. We used our Peace Corps salaries to buy the boys meat or fish 1 day of the week and pleaded with charities to provide clothes for them. The enormous calamity confronts the two nations that have been equally struggling for some time to overcome massive economic crises and lingering 12-year civil war in Syria that made the country a pariah and sent millions of Syrians into exile in Turkey or independent pockets within the country. That includes a narrow scrape of land in northwestern Syria where they are huddled along the Turkish border and protected by fighters against the regime. One of the places hit by the earthquake, this tiny haven, is a remnant of a once hopeful uprising that collapsed when Russia sent fighters and air power to rescue Syrian President Bashar Assad's regime. Many of those living there had fled again and again, leaving everything behind. At the peak of the fighting, the Russian led air war was exceptionally cruel in targeting hospitals there and elsewhere, leaving few medical resources for today's victims of the earthquake. For those living in the regime controlled areas, existence has been similarly difficult. Much of the nation's infrastructure has just been demolished. Many Syrians have succumbed to poverty, and financially crippling regime has markedly reduced subsidies. So too, as Turkey rushes to move thousands to safe housing, set up emergency medical facilities in cities and distant villages, and lead a global race to pull lives from the rubble, it is pinned down by a daunting economic collapse. An inflation rate nearing 90% in the last year has crippled businesses and meant great.
90%.
Yeah, that's what this says. I don't know. We might have to look and
Amazing.
see.
No,
I
I
mean,
think that's
that's
true.
insane.
No,
Insane.
it's huge.
It crippled the businesses and meant great sacrifices for working class Turks to buy basics. In February 2021, the US dollar was equal to 7 Turkish lira. Today it's about 18. Jen, your turn. Take over.
Turkey generously welcomed Syrians fleeing mayhem in their country, and the number eventually reached 3.6 million. Years later, many Syrians live in the earthquake area in whatever housing they can afford or the refugee camp network created when they first arrived. However, their welcome has waned as some Turks view them as competitors for jobs or burdens for a struggling Turkish economy. Southeastern Turkey is one of the nation's poorest regions. One of the reasons a large number of Turks have traditionally fled to large cities. The history of earthquakes has also been the cruelest for Turks living in the remote villages in mud homes or those made of similarly flimsy construction. But the quakes have also extracted heavy tolls in much larger communities where construction precautions were not taken. That danger was theoretically swept aside by 2018 legislation that laid down new construction safety measures. But Turks have complained that the laws have not been well enforced. Indeed, compelling video this week of the sudden collapse of a 14-story apartment building in Adana, a large city about 100 miles from the earthquake's epicenter, makes clear the quake's immense power and precarious nature of the housing for numbers of Turks. As before, I expect the survivors of this latest tragedy will most likely need far more than bandages and temporary housing to recover, as will their nations.
How is that going to happen?
No, it's
How
just
is
going to
that going to
be
happen?
not. It's not going to get rebuilt. I don't
I
think
mean,
so.
or it's going to be more poverty for more people and more hardship because that's what seems to be the whole planet. But anyway, all right. So we're gonna move on to the animals. It's time. We're gonna look at the kitties and see what's happened, and we're gonna look at the Euro Green News, which I like. And all right, so we're going to switch gears.
Yes.
Moments of hope. Broken bone cats rescued from the rubble in Turkey. Man, I just want, like, send me another 6, but I can hardly take care of them. Ones I have now. 11 days after massive earthquakes hit Turkey and Syria, hopes of finding further survivors are dwindling. As the devastating human toll nears 42,000. Okay, so this is a later one. Organizations on the ground are aiding survivors, but animals are also among the dead, injured, and displaced. Animal rights nonprofit PETA is in southern Turkey tending to those with broken bones and painful injuries. Among the rubble and devastation have been moments of hope, says PETA Vice President Mimi Bekeci. Bright feathered budgies are a welcome sight among gray debris. Mimi is assisting the local teams in Kahramanmaraş, a southern Turkish province at the Spectre at one of the earthquakes. She recounts the story of a pet shop rescue mission. Shortly after we arrived, local rescuers, heroes who were risking everything to go into buildings on the verge of collapse and search for life, entered a pet shop in the basement of what was once a tower block, and miraculously they pulled out 40 budgies. 40 budgies, those little birds. Now, what are they going to do with them? Their bright feathers were such a welcome sight. I guess Turkish people like birds. PETA rushed the birds to a vet for urgent medical attention before taking them to a sanctuary near Ankara. You know, I'm not religious, but bless those people that work in animal sanctuaries and take care of animals. They're the salt of the earth. Broken but not defeated, an injured cat welcomes human touch. Amid the misery and chaos, we spotted one little cat, who we've since named Talia, dragging herself across the street in search of food, recounts Mimi. X-rays revealed that Talia had a broken hip, likely from fallen debris. Despite this, she was glad to receive treats and stroking, Mimi tells us. Talia is now safe at a clinic in Adana where she's undergoing surgery. So, what struggles are animal rescuers facing? With no functional veterinary clinics in the earthquake's epicenter, animal rescue workers are sometimes forced to travel over 300 kilometers to seek medical care. Providing animals with food and warm blankets are top priorities, Mimi said, because many have been trapped in debris and bitterly cold for days. So this was about a doggy. It was a Twitter feed. And communication is also a struggle for rescue teams. The catastrophe has created a lot of chaos. Information about animals who may be trapped in buildings has therefore been unreliable at times, she explains. Often, her team spends time traveling to a site only to find out that it was already cleared and no animals were found. So the work requires adaptability. We are always ready to move at a moment's notice. Every passing hour counts. And the agility of rescue teams has paid off. Though it defies the odds, we're still seeing humans and other animals pulled from the rubble alive, even after 7 long days and near freezing temperatures with no food or water, said Mimi. So how can you help? And then it goes on, and all these links, guys, I'm going to put all the links that I have in the show notes, and it's up to you. So they talk about the different ways to help there, and that's why, I'll put them in the show notes because we're not going to do it now, but we're going to change over, and I want to make sure that the sound works, and we're going to listen to this really sweet little rescue. And I think you guys you're gonna like this. Oh, wait, it didn't start. Did you get the sound yet, guys? No. No, I'll do it. It'll come. There's always something with this thing. All right, systems audio, here we go. Start over again. So the cat won't leave his side. The cat won't leave his side. And that was like sweet. That's the kind of stuff, those are the good feelings, you know? Those are the things that make you feel good about life when these things happen. And I have another one. There's a picture. Tens, thousands of animals have been rescued. Look at
Oh,
that.
look at
Look
that.
at that. They're so cute. I mean, people are just the dogs, hurt. And I don't know. Can we adopt a dog from Turkey? It would be kind of, look at that beautiful cat. I just hope that all these animals find a home, or their owners. If their owners are still alive, that maybe, well, maybe they'll find them, right? What do you think, Jennifer? Is there any way?
Well, one can hope. It's really sad. Really sad.
Yeah, but you can have hope in this case. It's not called hopium. It's called
Hmm.
this is empathy. This is
Yeah.
humanity. Yeah. All right, Jen, take this next one away.
Okay. So this is from Georgia Today. The fight to save Turkish animals caught in the earthquake just came out yesterday. The combined death toll in Turkey and Syria from the powerful and devastating 7.8 magnitude earthquake that hit February 6 has now risen to above 41,000. As people are still being rescued from the rubble, a parallel rescue operation, one less well documented, has been ongoing. The one to save the animals. Nilgun Engin, animal activist, organizer of the Ankara Save chapter in the regional liaison for the Middle East and South Africa, Animal Save Turkey, an endorser of the plant based treaty, spared a few moments away from the tragic chaos to tell Georgia Today what the situation is like on the ground. How did the earthquake affect people's pets? It's sincerely impossible to describe the scale of the destruction in Turkey and Syria. After 1 week, many now say that multiple neighborhoods and perhaps cities have been wiped off the map. It's so hard to describe what happened without tearing up. So many different things happen to pets. There are birds and mice, for instance, who are kept inside cages. This instantly limited their ability to escape when the earthquake hit and the buildings collapsed, even after if they survived. Dogs and cats had more chances to get out, but they panic and sometimes go into
Oh.
hiding in the rubble, which makes it even harder to locate and rescue them. Sometimes, when a building is not safe to enter after assessments made by the search and rescue specialists, no one is allowed to go inside, even if the building is standing. At that point, even if you see a pet sitting looking out a window, you can't do anything. If we're lucky, we can get a crane onto the street with no roadblocks. We can reach the pet from the outside and take it out the window unless the animal gets scared and runs deeper into the building. Sometimes we come across animals in the streets and the roads. A week since the earthquake, and all this time, no animal outside was able to find
Oh.
any food or water. For such animals, it comes as pure relief when we approach with water for them to drink. What is the current situation on the ground? It is utter chaos and utter suffering. The human death tolls reported to be around 40,000, and then we heard 41,000. The
42.
United Nations estimates that this figure will double. Oh my God, 80,000 people? But the animal loss is unreported and undocumented, unfortunately. As if that's not enough, since the first
Never is.
quakes, around 2,500 more earthquakes have occurred in the same area with 3 to 4 to 5 magnitudes
All
in
the
variation,
aftershocks.
and they keep happening. 2,500 minor earthquakes have occurred since the big one.
Yeah, all those aftershocks.
Wow.
Mm-mm-mm.
No one is saying that they are not okay, though. Everyone is saying that they are doing fine, just so as not to distract from another's focus. We will cry about everything later. How are you and others helping? We're all super focused on the tasks we have listed. Animals Save Turkey is a group of 20 people with all kinds of jobs. We normally live in Ankara, Istanbul, and Izmir,
Good for
but we
you.
are working in shifts to go to Kamajabrara, whatever, Karamanamara.
Oh, good.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Karamana. Karamana Manaras.
Mm-hmm. Gaziantep, and Tep means hill, I know that. Malatya, Adiamen, and Hatay Ankar Antakya, whatever, wherever help is needed. We are delivering pet food, pet carriers, as well as water, food, blankets, and baby formula, diapers, and hygiene supplies for the survivors. We provide rescue transfer support to animals in need. We have rescued and transferred dozens of cats, as well as several dogs, birds from several cities. As of February 13th, we have rescued 35
Yes.
animals in total. That's like nothing, right? And almost all of them have been brought to safety, while some are in the process of transportation. While one group sets up a mobile soup station, others continue to search for the lost and left animals. Surviving animals are being brought back to Ankara and Izmir to safety as the next group supplies the items and heads back to the disaster zone. Many of our friends are risking their lives to enter damaged buildings to rescue animals, but this is something we feel we must do. We work in shifts. We give veterinary care to the animals that are being rescued from collapsed buildings or found wandering in the streets. We are searching for homes for animals that lost their owners or need special care, while part of the team stays in work in the areas working with local vets and rescue teams. They feed the stray animals and take the animals after they've been seen by the vets.
Good.
We take each and every animal that we find or rescue to a vet for a preliminary check to see if the animal is able to be transported, because in some cases, the journey can take 20 hours by car due to
Mm.
roadblocks and heavy winter conditions.
God.
Not even the weather is on our side.
Wow.
Our non mobile teams are supporting us online, taking calls for help, forwarding them to the respective team on the ground, managing the social media accounts where we receive dozens of reports, tips, news, and calls, sharing what we've been doing and updates about the calls that we have dispatched, fundraising, communicating with vets for medical procedures for the rescued animals, coordinating the adoption procedures for the rescued animals with
Wow.
volunteering new homes, and probably many more things that I cannot think of at
It's a
this moment.
huge job. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah, absolutely huge.
Oh, so,
What are
oh,
What are the challenges facing you right now? Search and rescue coordination is extremely difficult considering the scale of the disaster. The number of organizations and initiatives for animal search and rescue is clearly not enough. For instance, when we reach a call for help, the animal in need might have run off or got lost under the rubble. No one is
ugh,
able to keep up with all the scared, lost, and wounded animals. Insufficient cooperation also harms our efforts as we end up wasting energy, time, and resources answering such calls for help. What can we in Georgia do? Even sharing this interview would be a great help. We're working
yeah.
very hard under very difficult circumstances, surrounded by death and suffering. Yet, we want to continue our effort for all animals, whether lost in buildings or left on farms.
Oh,
We want to be able to keep sharing positive stories. We can use all the support and visibility we can get because it will matter for each and every dog, cat, bird, mouse, horse, and sheep. After following our efforts, if you wish to contribute in any way, please consider donating via our GoFundMe account and sharing the incredible stamina and patience that our teams have been displaying.
these are amazing people. I'm.
They are.
These are.
They're
These
saints.
are
They're really
the
saints.
salt of the earth. And this group, this coming group, They are
Oh,
also, and they are doing these just beautiful people from the country of Georgia. I didn't even get to cover all the countries that might be helping
right.
with animals, but this is these are the people. This is Network for the Animals, and we're going to go through this. This is their site. Countless of animals in Turkey are homeless and injured, waiting forlornly for their families to come back, but they never will. I mean, it's really fucking sad.
So sad.
Yeah, horribly sad. And but even if it's $5, $5, it all adds up. And like Donald said earlier, Hassan Piker has the YouTuber or Twitcher or whatever he has raised a million four already. So that's good.
Wow.
But the
Wow.
animals, the animals need the money. So what I want to do is take you to who the network of animals are, and I'm going to play this little video for you so you can see who they are, and it should work. All righty, let's go.
Network for Animals is a hands-on, on-the-ground organization rescuing animals when no one else will. In 1996, renowned animal activist Brian Davies founded Network for Animals with a mission to make the world a better place. Network for Animals campaigns have ranged from our decades-long quest to end the illegal dog meat trade in the Philippines, to fighting elephant poaching in Africa, moving endangered elephants to safe havens, and exposing baby elephant trafficking. Tens of thousands of animals are being saved and cared for across the world. Over the past 24 years, we have
She wanna
expanded
cry.
our operations to more than 20 countries around the world. We aim to extend our crusade to help animals in more countries. Our work never stops, and the need for help is always urgent.
Of course, that makes you want to cry. It does. Well, Brian Davies was quite a guy, and he passed away in December of 2022. And he also started the IFAW, and that's a global nonprofit helping animals to thrive, animals and people to thrive together. So Brian, his early life, and let me tell you something. He comes from the Welsh mining village of Tony Rafale, and he started this in 1958 when a car struck a dog outside of the family's home. Because there was no local vet, he contacted the where he lived, the SPCA, and took the dog to the animal hospital. It resulted in him coming the representative for the SPCA and unofficial unpaid. Well, I think it just moved on for him. And the activism came with the opposition to the Canadian seal hunt. And I have to tell you guys, that was the earliest bit of activism. I was a child and I was absolutely invested in the seal hunt. My mother had a seal coat. I hated it. It was horrible. And so when I learned about the seal hunts and I saw it on television, and this guy, he was on the front line and he got media attention, and he would run the Save the Seals campaign. So this man was a wonderful man. And Brian Davies, R.I.P., rest in peace. You did so much. Your animal. Look at everything, Network for Animals. So, Brian, thank you. Thank you, Brian. His organizations are in everywhere, everywhere. And so their history, again, they talk about Brian Davies, 1969. See how he went, and he's the goal to stop the commercial hunt for white coat seals. Let me tell you, that was I'm telling you, Jennifer, it was amazingly, it was my activism entree. Uh-huh. And then the whale, the harp seal, the more of the seals, because they used to just clunk them over the head for the coats so that the Western bitches could wear the coats. And even, well, not just the Western bitches. So they also help with the ivory ban, and they just whaling and bringing veterinary care. And so all these years, they went and they spearheaded the international efforts to establish the Southern Ocean Marine Sanctuary, protecting 90% of the world's whales. And I bet that the oceanographer Sylvia that I highlighted the other day probably had something to do with him. They stopped the Mexican government and Mitsubishi Corporation from building the world's largest salt factory in Laguna, San Ignacio, Mexico, the last critically undisturbed nursery for critically endangered gray whales. And then when that freighter sunk off the south, covering 38,000 penguins. You remember this in 2000, the 38,000 penguins in oil? They
Oh, that's so
led the
sad.
largest oil. But these are the people that get my heart, and I love them because they give and give and give and give. They give and give. IFAW, they rescued 24 tigers from a backyard zoo in New Jersey. That's disgusting. The publicity helped pass the Captive Wildlife Safety Act. I mean, there's just so much. And they protected more than 1,000 elephants. They're still Russia prohibits the hunting of baby seals, so that's great, saving 35,000 harp seals a year. I hope that's still in force. And so this is what these people do. They are in Haiti. They were in Haiti. They've been everywhere. All of these wonderful people. So they exist. And when these things happen, they're the ones that are not on the front lines. You know, the World
Yeah.
Trade Organization rules that the EU has the right to ban the seal products based on animal welfare. And the International Court of Justice finds that Japan's Southern Ocean whale hunt is illegal. In China, they launched a major media campaign featuring Chinese opinion leaders who encourage consumers to reject ivory. Uh, the U.S. government finalizes ivory regulations in 2016 to protect African elephants by deterring. I don't know, did Trump make that go away? Because I know that they like to hunt, that family likes to hunt, big hunt, and they go on those African hunts, so I don't know. But anyway, there, I just thought, let's show that to you guys. And I thought, wow, how cool, right? Yeah,
No.
something good. Something good.
Well, this is kind of a heartbreaking show. The animals really get you. You know, they get you even more than the people in a certain way. I don't know why.
They do. There are a lot of us because we know that there's so many volunteer organizations. And yes, there's thousands of people died, and it's horrible. I don't know. I just feel let's see. Tanya, oh, hi, Bila. Tanya says these rescuers have got to be tough to deal with all the crazy abuse of animals. It's admirable. And a lot of us couldn't do it. At one time in my life, I thought about it, but I don't know if I could have done that. It's hard enough to save these. Hi, Tabula Rasa. Thank you, Sandy and Jennifer, for shedding light on all our collective human errors. You are true golden hearts and an inspiration for all of us. Thank you. Well, isn't that sweet? Oh, and Mario says the president of El Salvador passed laws against the abuse of animals. People will be, wow, arrested and prosecuted. That's good. Finally, other countries are doing it. Great, great, great. Well, Jen, what do you say? We are just about an hour. It's perfect for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been a good show. It's good to cover this earthquake in depth. And I do want to tie this to climate change, maybe not this one in particular, because I really don't know what caused this earthquake. I mean, we understand that there's subduction and all this stuff, but who knows? But, sometimes you get these big earthquakes in the Arctic, and there is a fault that goes all the way up to the Arctic along the east coast of Greenland. And of course, what is happening in Greenland? Greenland is melting. What does that do? That's millions and zillions and trillions of pounds and tons of ice, right? That's not there anymore, and it's floating into the ocean. It's going away. So, you know, that actually can cause earthquakes, and that's called,
Should
of
follow
course,
up.
isostatic
Static.
rebound.
Yep.
You know,
Wow.
so
Wow.
I don't know if this earthquake had anything to do with climate change at all, but climate change and the lessening of ice can cause
Mm-hmm.
earthquakes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I wanted to say one thing to Billy Joe Smo. You use wet dogs, and I did have a thing. Mexico sent dogs. They sent rescue dogs, and one of their rescue dogs rescued about 50 people and then died. So it was unreal. But the dog had worked a long time, and now they are making this dog a hero in Mexico. And I didn't show it, but I just wanted to tell you. And there you go. There you go. Thank you, everyone. We love you. And we will see you next week. Don't forget all our little, our little shtick, buy me a coffee, all that stuff. But then if you can, donate to one of these organizations. They're just so, it's so meaningful, very meaningful. All right. We are out. Good night, guys.
Night night.
Love you all. Oh, we didn't do the flush of the day. I keep forgetting. What are we going to flush? We got to do a real quick flush. Earl's not here, but what are we going to do? Anybody know what we should flush away? Let's flush away earthquakes.